Here's what happened, guys. A manifesto about America's future by Palantir CEO Alex Karp is making its rounds in the digital landscape. There are some interesting points, and it should absolutely terrify you that multinational corporations are actually trying to build this future. Now, we're going to read some of the 22 points in this manifesto very soon, but let's provide the context about what Palantir represents, which is a software AI powered company. And they work with our government and businesses to analyze data. So, how I think about it, and I'm going to put it in a simple way, referring to Lord of the Rings, is that they are part of Sauron's army. I'm sure there's some nice employees, but this movement doesn't want a future that includes a mass surveillance in the name of security. This movement of small business owners wants to build a future where Americans can trust each other in a society where we don't need to lock our doors at night. One way we stop a dystopian future is we avoid unnecessary wars. Welcome back to the show. Happy Monday. All right, guys, we're going to get into it. I'm going to read through some of the points in this manifesto. For me reading through this, there was one I agreed with I agree with partially on a level without if I had no context as to what this company is, but when you put in the context of what this company represents, it gets you to have to question things, and where things don't make sense, be curious, ask questions, and we've got to push back against this future and be reminded when I go into this here. It's an important reminder that you can shape the future. We can shape the future. We do not have to let multinational corporations shape the future, and we just adapt to it as small business owners. And that's really important with this movement is you have a massive impact on our society and on the lives of Americans, and we cannot forget that. So let me get this up here. All right, be patient with me, guys, here as I get this up here. All right, there we go. It's just me doing this. Eventually, you're going to get a producer here to help out with getting these up faster. But again, 22 points. I'm going to go down to I'll start with the one that for me makes sense at a certain level without context, if I had no idea what this company was about. And that's number 3, which is free email is not enough. I get that. The decadence of a culture or civilization, and indeed its ruling class, will be forgiven only if that culture is capable of delivering economic growth and security for the public. Well, I'm on board for economic growth and security, but we have to ask ourselves, at what cost here? What cost is that going to be? And when we think about the future, it does not have to be a future of mass surveillance and of low trust in our society. We as Americans can come together and trust each other and be in a society where then we don't have to lock our doors at night. That for me is a success with this movement of making America's future a small business renaissance. But let's get into now the real interesting ones. This is starting with number 4. The limits of soft power of soaring rhetoric alone have been exposed. What does that mean? The ability of free and democratic societies to prevail requires something more than moral appeal. It requires hard power. And hard power in this century will be built on software. Okay, what does that mean? Let's go on to number 5. The question is not whether AI weapons will be built. It is who will build them and for what purpose. Okay, our adversaries will not pause to indulge in theatrical debates about the merits of developing technologies with critical military and national security applications. They will proceed. So what? Are we just supposed to let companies just do what they want and then not be able to hold companies accountable, or ask ourselves, is this morally right to be building these type of autonomous weapons for the human civilization? And has anyone seen Terminator that are building these weapons? But let's go on to number 6. Number 6, national service should be a universal duty. We should, as a society, seriously consider moving away from an all-volunteer force and only fight the next war if everyone shares in the risk and the cost. So I'm going to pause there. You may not have realized this yet, but to register for the draft when you are 18 years old, you used to have to do that manually and take the time to go to the site, fill out the information. Now, or starting in December, it's going to be automatic to get registered into the draft. Now, what the argument would be is to make it more efficient, but then going through these points and it gets you to think like, okay, wait, what's happening here? Is there going to be more feature wars here? Like, what does this mean? Because one of the promises, and comedian Tim Dillon, I'm going to share a clip here soon, really sums it up well, wasn't one of the promises of technology for us to have less wars, to be more interconnected and interdependent with other nations, where there won't be a need for more and more war. But what is going on here? And when we can take these different puzzle pieces and bring them together, we can start to see the bigger picture. And I've said it before, theology, culture, politics, economy, they're interconnected in shaping the future. And as Americans, we have to push back on things that don't make sense. And the way we do that is we be curious and we ask questions. And absolutely you can ask questions of, what does this actually mean? Questioning not whether or not AI weapons will be built. Wait a second. Who says that we gotta go down this path? AI, it's out of the box, but do we need to move into this direction? And at what point, how far are we going to go in that direction of developing AI weapons? What does that even look like? So we absolutely can push back here and remind ourselves that as small business owners, as Americans, we can shape the future. We don't just have to adapt to it from what multinational corporations are telling us. And it's an important reminder. So I'm going to actually get to the clip here from Tim Dillon. Let me exit out of this one here. So that one's done. All right, here we go. Here we go, guys. Bring this back up. Thanks for being patient with me. Again, another way you can support the show is please subscribe to the show and leave your comments, what you're thinking about this manifesto. If you took the time to go through this, which ones do you resonate? Which ones do you resonate with? I'd be curious if you resonate with some of these. And which ones are you like, yeah, that's absolutely absurd. Can't believe that that's even in there for these points. And it is terrifying to think that there are actually multinational corporations that are trying to build this future. All right, so let me share with you this clip from Tim Dillon.
Very, very long time. And the promise of technology was that it was going to make wars less common. That was one of the promises of technology, that an interconnected, interdependent world would not go to war as much. But Palantir is like, let's relax.
Yeah, sums it up well of just what does this actually mean? And what we can ask ourselves too is, has technology plateaued? Because with freedom and convenience, they're incompatible when they get to a certain level. What do we have to give up for the cost of convenience? Is that privacy, which we're seeing that happen in our country? Is that our health, which we could be seeing that with the processed foods? Is that disconnection? We're seeing that with social media and how we feel so lonely, and that there's a loneliness epidemic, depression crisis happening in our country. And so then, has technology reached this plateau? And are we actually going to be able? Are we critically thinking more today than we were even a decade ago? And that is something when it comes to, as Americans overall, we got to ask ourselves: are we better off now than we were decades ago? And comedian Tim Dillon also talks about this. Highly recommend you take the time to watch the episode. You got to deal with the profanity, but it's important that we talk more about this and more people talk about this, because we cannot forget that about this worldview, which is the powerful and the rest of us. And powerful can look different. It could be globalists, is a group, it could be deep state, Epstein class, these big globalist corporations. There are different groups that can be titled into that power structure of the powerful. But what we cannot forget as Americans, as small business owners, is that we have a big impact in our society. We do. There are over 36 million small businesses. And when we unite and we come together, it is a powerful force in shaping the future. And we have to fight for what is beautiful, good, and true in this country. We got to preserve what is great about this country. And one of those is our ability to own our small business, but also the freedoms that we have and the liberty, being able to pursue happiness, to improve our quality of life, to be able to achieve the American dream, to start with relatively small amount of resources and go and make something happen for our life. There is so much potential in this country. I have conversations with small business owners that gives me immense hope for the future, and especially hearing it from younger people that want to get in this and that want to put in the work. And we are at a pivotal time in history where massive change is happening. We can experience that all around us, and that can feel chaotic. And with chaos, it can be really difficult to build a business and to run a business. And so by being able to create stability and predictability moving forward in the future, by understanding the patterns through that, to be able to have that predictability, we're then able to, it's easier to navigate and then also to start to shape for the future. And one of my goals for this show is to help you to understand all the puzzles that are out there of theology, culture, politics, economy, and how they all work together in order to shape the future. And there are evil forces that are out there, absolutely. And we have to stand up to those evil forces and realize that we can actually make a massive difference here in how America's future is going to look for our future kids and grandkids. So let me share with you another clip here from Tim Dillon that we talked about this before, and again, he sums it up well.
But if you look at life in the 90s or the early 2000s, or if you even go back to 2010, no one believes life is better now than it was in 2010. We're in 2026. It's 16 years later. No one looks at life now and says it's better. Look at 2010. People are out. They're in bars. They're in restaurants. They're going out. They're celebrating things. They have, a sort of a social life that is different. Young people feel more hope about the future.
And we got to get back to that hope and realize that we're gonna have to put in the hard work to make that happen. And so what can we do for an alternative for the future to realize that technology has plateaued here? What then is the future for innovation? Well, it comes back to our moral principles, coming back to practical wisdom, to discipline, to courage, to being on a foundation of truth. We want to be told the truth. We don't want to go through these psychological operations that we're experiencing, both online and from our elected officials. We don't want the corruption anymore. We want people to be communicating in integrity and taking action that is in the best interest of the American people. But what happens is, okay, we have that foundation of truth, but then what else can we do? Well, we can make sure that we are supporting our local economy when it comes to on the city level, town level, making sure that we are keeping that money within those businesses, figuring out how we can get the different products we need throughout our day and services we need from small businesses. We can learn more about the businesses that we are potentially deciding to spend our money with, learn more about what they believe in and what they are, what their products and services, what's involved in either making the products or how is this service going to actually benefit me in the long term. We can then ask ourselves, are there certain habits where I can change that in my life, if that's focusing on my health, to improving my communication in partnership, where I can be an example. I can lead by example for others. But it's not too much to ask for a environment that has stability, that has liberties that we can hold on to in our country, freedom, that we can have more predictability of the future because we're having less chaos that we're experiencing. We have more trust. Is it too much to ask for to be able to have one person in a household, their income being able to support the entire household of how it used to be, so that you can just have a little extra money to then be able to take your girlfriend out to dinner on a date night, or take your wife out for that trip, or to take the whole family out for vacation. and to realize that your business is just one part of your life. It's not doesn't have to be to the point where you're constantly working all the time and then you're barely able to get by for your quality of life. This is where we have to change things. And we got to look at our industries, across industries, and determine within our industries, where's there unnecessary regulations, unnecessary burdens, red tape that we can get rid of within the industries, which ones just don't make any sense and that might be hurting other industries. I look at healthcare as a prime example where there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that industry. And where can we make it more efficient, but also make sure we're protecting privacy of Americans and make sure we're protecting the liberty that we get to experience in this country and not go towards a mass surveillance state. So these are things we got to continue to talk about more. And with this movement, be reminded of that we can shape the future and move towards making America's future a small business renaissance. If you are a small business owner that wants to connect with other small business owners in person, then you can join us for A Future Fest. This is where you can register as afuturefest.com. It's going to be happening in Charleston, South Carolina, January 14th to 15th, 2027. Really excited for this event. The plan is to have over 300 small business owners coming across the country and across industries to shape the future. And when you can understand more of what's going on in different industries, get different perspectives, and start to notice the patterns of where we're going into the future, and even start to shape that, then it can become more predictable. And then you can have more security and structure and stability moving forward. And with that, it can help you to be more confident in your decision making. And when you learn the basics of your business, basics of the patterns that are out there, and what's going on across industries, at worst, you're going to be a better decision maker. At best, you will be unstoppable. And this country has so much potential for more unstoppable small business owners. So I'm excited for that event, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.